And yes, thank you for recording. And we're incredibly pleased that our audience today is not only Ukrainian, but also international. For this reason, its webinar happened in two languages, Ukrainian and English. On the right bottom on your screen, you can find a globe icon, and you can choose the language which you prefer to listen. This channel will be Ukrainian, so now I will be jump in Ukrainian language. So I will give you just a few seconds to change language, and I will start.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Half an hour ago, we had no light in our office, so I thought I would be moderating this webinar in candlelight, because Ukraine now is suffering from blackouts after the latest attacks of Russia. But we hope that we will manage. You know, things can happen, so just warning in advance. Like the last time we had this webinar, I will be the moderator today. My name is Yurko Prepodobny. I am one of the founders of the Skeiron organization. We are doing digitalization of and documentation of Ukrainian heritage. We have already completed the work on hundreds and even thousands of objects, and we have started more active work because of the war. We have initiated this project together with the Heritage Management Organization from Greece and the Kharkiv School of Architecture, evacuated to Lviv. And the project we are implementing now is preserving architectural heritage in times of war, the Ukrainian model. The project is supported by the public diplomacy section of the US Embassy to Ukraine. This project will contribute to the preservation and rehabilitation of the architectural heritage of Ukraine by documenting architectural monuments, providing for professional training and on-the-job training to the new generation of Ukrainian architects working with heritage. This is already a second webinar. Out of the three we have planned for 2024, we have had many registered participants, over 150 participants from more than 30 countries. And every one of those registered who is unable today to join us will be able to get a recording of our event, and we will do this via email. So we invite you to use our chat to pose questions. We will have a special moderator assigned to collecting those questions, and we will ask these questions to our speakers if time permits. So let us go to the topic of our today's webinar. This is community-led digital documentation of Ukrainian heritage, 3D methods and practice. We would like to discuss the way communities can become active drivers for digitalization, because digitalization market in Ukraine is currently going up, and there are several reasons for that. Unfortunately, most of these reasons are horrible reasons. The first reason is the war with Russia, which today is looting our museums or destroying them, and they are plundering our barrows and other historical locations. Another reason is that today Ukraine suffers from insufficient national funding, and we understand that the largest proportion of Ukrainian budget should be and is invested into defense against Russia, and this is only logical. And yet another reason is that during the latest 3 years, Ukraine has evoked a lot of interest in the whole world, and partially it was stimulated by the war. These reasons are rather sad, but I can say that if we look to the situation 9 years ago, in comparison with today, the market of digitalization has grown around 10, maybe 20 times. What it means is that now we have a lot of competition in this sphere, a lot of new projects emerge, a lot of practices emerge, and in terms of digitalization, Ukraine is becoming increasingly visible on the global scale. From my experience, most of the interesting projects start from a small sparkle, from one person who has knowledge about some very interesting object, which is locally interesting, and who would like to share it with the world. Quite often, this is a representative of the community, and the community itself will be the user of the historical site of the museum, for instance, or actually of the location. So our job is to raise the community's awareness about the value of the object. As soon as the community realizes that this is their treasure, something to be proud of, then this will be perceived as an asset, which could be translated into the whole world, which could become a source of funding, and which could become a source of all sorts of interesting activities. So that is why we have invited our speakers today, and they are going to tell us how digitalization starts from a small sparkle, how it can be community-led, how we can engage them in participation, and how to make these monuments, historical monuments, really community-owned and not just a souvenir on somebody's shelf. I would like to introduce our first speaker, Kacey Hadick. He is the Director of Programs and Development at CyArk, and he has over a decade of experience in cultural heritage protection and community engagement. He holds a master's degree in international relations and project development. Kacey collaborates with local partners globally to develop projects that support conservation, provide training, and enhance site interpretation through digital experiences. On my part, I can add that my organization, Skeiron, we met CyArk around 2016, maybe 2017, and a colleague of mine showed me this organization, and we were so impressed. And we can say that from that time, a bit less than 10 years have elapsed. Actually, in 2016, CyArk had already had a decade of experience while we were only starting, and so CyArk was an inspiration for us to take to choose the road we are treating now. And thank you very much, Kacey, for that. You have the floor.
Thank you, Yurko, and it's really an honor. Thank you for the kind words. I think today I'm really excited to share a little bit about our organization, and my colleague Simon Radchenko from the organization Archaic will be sharing a little bit about our work in Ukraine in a little bit, but I've been asked to share about CyArk's mission and work, and then we can have kind of a more targeted conversation about our ongoing work in Ukraine. So is everyone seeing my screen? It's all good? Okay, perfect. Thank you. As Yurko mentioned, CyArk has been around for around 20 years, and our organization is a nonprofit organization. And what we really want is to help communities use 3D recording technologies to conserve and protect different types of cultural heritage, and also make them accessible to new audiences and future generations. So kind of the origin story of our organization, if if some of you are familiar with laser scanning technology, the founder of the organization was one of the principal inventors of LiDAR or laser scanning technology. And he was from the Middle East, and he wanted to create an organization that kind of leveraged laser scanning and other recording technologies to protect cultural heritage around the world. And so for over 20 years, we've been working all over using these 3D recording technologies to document, sharing how these technologies can be used to better manage and preserve sites. And really in the last 5 or so years, we've been able to do a lot more with the data. Whereas in the past, maybe it was just a really high resolution record in the case of an emergency or a disaster. Today, you can do a lot more fun things with the data, creating educational or online experiences, VR. We really want to make the data useful today, not just it's a record in case something happens in the future. So our organization works in 3 primary areas. This storytelling or interpretation path, where we're kind of leveraging 3D recording technologies and these digital twins of places or resources, and then putting them online or in different immersive medias to share them with the public. We still do 3D documentation around the world, both in the United States and abroad, using laser scanning technology, using photogrammetry, and kind of combining them to create these really high resolution models. And then the third focus of our organization is training others in these techniques. And Simon is going to talk a little bit more about our training programs in Ukraine, but these are the 3 kind of main paths at our organization. And just as a little bit of background, in my role as Director of Programs and Development, I work with different communities around the world to come up with projects. And like Yurko was saying, the idea for this project came from Simon in Ukraine, who was an archaeologist. And so I often am working with different partners around the world, developing projects, and then together we're writing grants to be able to carry out that work. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about our storytelling initiatives and efforts. We kind of work with communities, sit with them, talk with them, understand what stories that they want to tell online or in different types of media. These can be online experiences. We've worked with different museums around the world to create different interactive and engaging experiences, or in kind of XR, VR, immersive media. So kind of the focus is spatial storytelling. So how can we tell a story about a place using a digital twin or a 3D model? And kind of our philosophy is we're not the experts on the heritage around the world, and so we're really working with our partners in Ukraine or in different countries and trying to understand what stories they want to tell, and then sharing how technology can be used to kind of tell those stories. And so in the different types of experiences that we create, we're trying to kind of make people, presence, and perspective kind of come through those experiences. So letting the local communities themselves talk in those experiences, trying to add the feeling of being there, whether that's through ambient audio, photos and videos, and these really immersive 3D models. And then again, trying to include a diversity of perspectives in the experiences that we create. And so that's interviewing not only the site expert, but also the person that lives around that location, so that we get kind of a fuller understanding of that place or resource. And then we think that kind of helps the public, the general public, understand that place better. So before we kind of begin a project, we go through this story production process. This is a lot of text, but yeah, we're just working with partners around the world to kind of pull out the main ideas that they want to communicate in the experiences, and then making sure that we're checking in constantly with them, so that the different experiences meet the needs of the partner. So maybe they're looking to highlight a certain area that's less visited and they want to kind of raise the profile of that location. Or maybe they're looking to tell a story about this place that hasn't been told before. And so this is an example of a project that I wanted to share, and I'm going to just minimize my screen. So this is a site here in the United States called Cliff Palace. And so my background is in anthropology and archaeology. This is a place that I visited as a child, and CyArk had the opportunity to work here several times. And so this is the kind of digital twin 3D model that we created for the National Park Service, which is the managing body that protects this place. And then working with the park, they wanted to create an online experience that allows the public an opportunity to kind of visit this site, maybe in the off season. This is a location in northern Colorado that gets a lot of snow, and during the winter it's shut to the public. And so this is a way that people, irregardless of whether or not they're in Colorado, they can kind of explore this place online. And again, with this particular partner, the National Park Service, what they wanted to do in this experience was highlight Indigenous perspectives about this place. And so in the virtual tour experience, we have different individuals from different Native American communities in the United States that are connected to this place, telling their story and what this place means to them. And so you can kind of move through the 3D model and explore these different areas, hear from a park ranger, one of these members of the National Park Service, and then also hear from different Indigenous interns who are working at the park. So this is our Tapestry platform, and I encourage you to check out some of the other virtual tours that we have online. That site is really large and grand, but we also do experiences of very simple places. So documenting a simple home or a simple archaeological resource, and then creating a tour about that. So Tapestry is one of the ways that we share these 3D models with the public, but that's not the only way. And so with this same data set, we were also able to work with a museum here in the United States to create a 3D print that people could interact with, to create these kind of immersive panels in a museum experience. And so always looking at ways that we can work with different communities around the world and tell the story that they're looking to tell using these 3D recording technologies. So this is just a little bit more about Tapestry. I was showing you on the left-hand side, we have videos with different individuals. Again, the background is this 3D model, and then these different interactive components that we can layer on, whether that's historical media, drawing the viewer's attention to a different aspect that they might not have seen just on initial glance. And so, yeah, this is something that we're really excited about. We launched it just over a couple of years ago, but we're continually refining it and working to make it a better experience for individuals. And yeah, with our project in Ukraine that Simon will be sharing about in a little bit, we'll be creating one of these experiences to highlight the archaeological heritage of Ukraine. So that's something we're very excited about. Yeah, and with Tapestry, it can be embedded on any website. It just uses a little bit of HTML code. So also it includes subtitles and can be presented in multiple languages. And so this is, again, just providing access and making sure that we're reaching the audiences that the local partner has identified. These are just a few more examples of how tapestries have been implemented, whether it's on a website or kind of an in-person kind of kiosk in a museum. So yeah, I encourage you to check out tapestry.org. Now I kind of wanted to move on to the documentation and training component of our work, which is a big part of what we do today. CyArk does from 20 to 30 projects a year. And those could be documenting a site being affected by climate change. It could be training communities in Ukraine how to document archaeological heritage. Could be documenting a location here in the United States. So I kind of mentioned it in the beginning, but our methodology, we typically use both LiDAR and photogrammetry, and we combine them together to create the 3D model. So you're kind of leveraging the scale from the LiDAR data and the texture and color from the photogrammetry images. So this is an example of a project at a very large site in Mexico City that was damaged from an earthquake. And we worked with the Mexican government to document this church, the main cathedral, again, using these same techniques. So here's the LiDAR data and then combining it with the photogrammetry to create this really high resolution 3D model that could be used to kind of assess the state of the monument and also could be used to create an immersive experience. So yeah, creating these different assets that have multiple uses for the partner, in this case, the Mexican government. So I'll just skip that. And then some other examples of 3D documentation and training programs. There's this project in Bangladesh, which is a country that's affected by flooding because of its low sea level. This is an example of a more conservation-focused project where we're working with university and government officials, training them how to use 3D recording technologies to document threatened heritage. Again, our work in Nigeria and Rapa Nui is also focused on the impact of climate change. In Nigeria, kind of focusing on the impact of flooding from a river, and then in Rapa Nui, the impact from coastal erosion, just like in Bangladesh. And another program that we're working on that is an example of this is the Endangered Wooden Architecture Program, which is a project that we're carrying out in collaboration with Oxford Brookes University, funded by Arcadia Fund. And this project kind of, it's a grant program, and so individuals or organizations apply because they want to document a certain type of vernacular wooden architecture around the world. And then CyArk gets to provide training and recommend different equipment that group can use to document that different type of unique vernacular architecture. And so I think this gives a good kind of overview of the type of projects that are more in this conservation lens. Yeah, these projects were not done for the focus of creating a immersive 3D experience online, but were really created to solve a problem that was happening on the ground. So trying to better understand the rate of change from erosion, or trying to document this endangered wooden structure before it's lost. So I just wanted to talk quickly about this program in Bangladesh. This was funded by the Alif Foundation, which many of you might be familiar with, is a grant-making organization based in Geneva. And again, it focused on climate vulnerability and the potential that has for creating conflict among different communities. And so on this project, it happened during the pandemic in 2020 to 2022. And so we created a lot of virtual training programs to support the partners in Bangladesh. And then they went out and documented six different types of monuments. So this was from World Heritage structures to more modest monuments. And what was really exciting from this project was that participants were able to create deliverables within 48 hours. And so this is, mute it, but just kind of going out, we did a simulation, like if a disaster happened, how quickly could you create different deliverables? And so the participants developed this kind of 48-hour workflow to document these monuments and then create architectural drawings and sections. So this is kind of the workflow that the students followed. And it was really exciting to see them kind of use these tools like reality capture and Poetry and create Cloud Compare, these open access resources to create solutions. And most of these students were architecture students. And so I was excited to see them and then continue using these technologies as part of this course at the university. So this is kind of one of the examples, one of the mosques that was documented using these techniques. Again, some of the drawings that were produced in this 48-hour window in Bangladesh. And so I did also want to talk finally about how we kind of share the results that we do, that we produce. And so for these storytelling or virtual experiences, we use Tapestry, which is our platform for sharing these immersive experiences. But for sharing data sets that are less focused on storytelling and more just creating a high resolution model, we use a platform called Open Heritage 3D, which is a repository that we created several years ago for hosting these large cultural heritage data sets that many institutions have trouble storing and managing. And so we created this resource as a way for individuals to upload, create a digital object identifier to go with each resource that's documented, and then it can be published, and then individuals can download that data online. And so you can also check out this resource online, Open Heritage 3D. You can go in if you're curious about 3D data in the country. You can go and download it, look at it online. This is one of the data sets that was documented as part of our program with Archaic in Ukraine from a collection of wooden shipwrecks from Zaporizhia. So encourage you, another great resource for learning about different types of cultural heritage, and you have some metadata associated with it. So that is kind of an example of where we kind of publish our data that we want individuals to be able to access. And then the final kind of branch of our work is the training program. And so again, like this program that we're doing in Ukraine, it's trying to make these techniques and methods that we use and have been using over the past 20 years accessible to people, to different communities who may be interested in that more conservation or more storytelling vein. And so again, we have both online and in-person training programs. Every year we offer like grants where people can apply to join one of these for free. And then we also have paid training programs that we provide as part of our work. But our training programs focus on taking good photos for photogrammetry, using LiDAR technology to quickly and efficiently document cultural heritage sites and different resources. And then we also have training focused on how do you create or how do you leverage digital twins to create a compelling virtual experience. So we also have storytelling and storytelling training as well. So I think those are the kind of topics I wanted to cover today. And I'm excited to pass it over to Simon. He can share a little bit more about our ongoing work in Ukraine and how we've been able to leverage kind of each of these different branches in the project that we're doing in Ukraine. So Taituke, Yurko, thanks so much.
Please, Kacey, stay here, and we are going to give the floor to Simon in a bit. In a while, we have a few questions to you. So once again, I would like to ask all the participants to use our chat for questions. While you are using our chat to pose questions, I'm going to ask several questions I have prepared. So you said that CyArk trainings are a big part of your work. So what is the key to a successful team? So when are teams over-focused on something? And this can impede the activity. So in this, also please tell us, how can we improve our trainings, what we need to introduce?
Yeah, I think some of our most successful trainings are trainings that involve kind of a diverse group of stakeholders. I think oftentimes we've definitely been part of trainings where we worked with the Ministry of Culture, and then we find out a few years later all of those people left and maybe went to the private sector. And so I think some of our really successful trainings kind of involve both government officials, university students, but really, I think the biggest kind of determining factor is if these individuals or participants of the training are really motivated and are passionate about trying out these technologies and have a really clear use case where it's very applicable to the work that they're doing. It's going to provide a lot of value. And I think sometimes with trainings, you get people who are less interested, but if you have a group that is really passionate, I would say the group from Ukraine, there's a really clear use case. That was kind of one of our best trainings, I would say, is because they really had these really critical needs, documenting these archaeological resources in Ukraine. And so, yeah, I would say a diverse group of stakeholders, yeah, and definitely including individuals who are passionate about applying it, and they're really trying to solve a problem. Yeah, I think it's always kind of mixed, but yeah, I think when there is a clear need and they see 3D recording technology as a really great solution, that's a great kind of mix.
Well, on our part, we can confirm that the people who are actually aflame with an idea, agog with an idea, they are the best students, and you just give them the tool and they will do everything themselves. And there is one question from the chat. Is Tapestry a free tool, and how can you get it?
Yeah.
I also had a similar question. Maybe I will just add after you answer.
Yeah, so Tapestry, we're continuing. Our ultimate goal is we want to make it a platform for everyone to use. We still have some tweaks to do. We're creating kind of our own viewers and kind of making it accessible. But right now, it's only available if we do a project together. And so, but kind of our ultimate goal is we want to make this a platform that anyone can use. Yeah, right now, Tapestry can be embedded on any website, and so. For this project that we're doing together in Ukraine, where these different institutions will be kind of publishing some of the archaeological resources that were documented as part of this project, they'll be able to embed it on all of their websites. But kind of what we're moving towards and our goal is that we can make it accessible for everyone. But right now it's just if we do a project together, but we're working hard to make it a platform that will be accessible to everyone.
Okay, and actually you have answered my question with your last sentence, whether I can embed it on my site. So because Skeiron, under the framework of the memorandum with the Minister of Culture, we are doing a project together, and I can say that there are over 300 digitalized big buildings in Ukraine, and so I think not only us, but also other organizations will be eager to use Tapestry, because Tapestry is great for storytelling, and this is the need of the market that is practically unaddressed. So thank you very much for your answer. And we have a very exciting question from the chat. And the question is, are you going to study house placing? And are you trying to introduce it for your storytelling activities?
Yes, we are doing some experiments with Goshen splatting. And so, yeah, we're excited to hopefully share an example in the next coming months of a place that would be very difficult to document with photogrammetry or laser scanning. And so, yeah, we are experimenting, and hopefully Tapestry will be able to support that as well. And so, yeah, we always are kind of for the last 20 years have been trying out the latest technologies, and so we're really excited with what we're seeing with Gaussian splatting, and excited to keep experimenting and kind of pushing that technology to its limit.
Thank you very much. And on my part, I think I will ask the last question. Today you have mentioned the project EWAP, the wooden architecture, which you do together with Oxford Brookes University, and which is also supported by Arcadia. So this project provides has open call for the monuments which are endangered, and I know that the participants get the necessary equipment and they start documenting the monuments. This is like a background story, but the question is, after they have the initiatives have got the equipment and they have started the equipment, do you monitor whether they continue using it, and how do you keep in touch?
Yeah, no, I think the Oxford Brookes, our team just got back from a meeting in the UK in Oxford, where a lot of the participants from the first couple rounds of the grant recipients got to come together and share how they're using technologies. And so we definitely do keep in touch. I'd say one of the best examples is a partner from India that we trained as part of this program. And yeah, one thing that's really great about this program is that the applicants who are successful in their grant applications, they get a lot of equipment that can stay with their institution. And this equipment is the laser scanners, cameras, laptops that they can use to continue doing digital documentation. And this partner from India, we were able to work together again on another project in India following Oxford Brookes project. So I would say that's one of the best examples, but yeah, it's a great communication where they can keep coming back to us. And if we have funding to support work in a certain geography, then those partners that we trained, they're great potential future partners to work with again. And so yeah, it's exciting. I didn't get to go to Oxford to meet with the rest of the team, but some of my colleagues got to go, and it was really exciting to see how they are continuing to use those technologies to preserve different types of heritage within their countries.
Thank you very much, Kacey, for your report, for answering the questions. And I would like also to say that we keep on collecting the questions, so please carry on asking questions using our chat option. And if some of the questions today will be unanswered due to the lack of time, we will collect them and we will provide responses by email. So thank you very much. And gradually, we are trying to give the floor to Dr. Simon Radchenko, who is a postdoctorand in Norway, University of Stavanger. He focuses on digitizing and studying archaeological data, mainly rock art objects, and developing technological and methodological solutions for digital research in archaeology. Simon, I'm really very glad that you have found the time to join us today. So, well, please share your experience of your work with CyArk and what prospects you see for the future. Maybe it could be a good example for other communities to understand what exactly they have, and to understand that they need to apply.
Hear me, and in a minute I will ask if you can see my slides. Yeah. So what I'm about to do is to show our experience in the NGO archive, well, present the NGO, and then tell more about the project, just, yeah, as you mentioned right now. Well, the first part is rather short because Archaic is a rather small organization, relatively new. So this presentation will be more about the history of how we done it right before the war and what we started to do when the war started. Well, technically, Archaic is the non-governmental organization that called Scientific Research Lab Archaica. And this word combination kind of reflects our approach to what we want to do and what we are doing practically. Because first, the idea of calling it a lab means that we people who involved into Archaic don't have any specific project-oriented agenda or any large grand narrative behind us. We just gather to do whatever we want to do, and mostly it is about just having fun around cultural heritage, trying to be also useful for the people who involved in it. We started doing the digitization of cultural heritage in 2016 and then gathered as Archaica in 2019, finally making an NGO in 2021. So that was a long process of trying to find the mode of collaboration with my colleagues from Zaporizhia mostly. And the idea of Archaica is that different people just, come to space and the team is as flexible as possible. So we try to keep it as open as possible. At the same time, Archaica is the research lab, and we do what would qualify as academic work. So we publish books, we publish scholarly papers, we focus at 3D study, 3D investigation of archaeological objects. This one to the right is the Witoft Tower, which is located right near the Kachovka Dam in Kherson region, quite an well-known area these days, unfortunately. And back in 2018, we were the first team who drew attention to it as an architectural object using photogrammetric means for that. As I said, we don't have a flexible team, so actually the images from last year training with CyArk are the most representative of our team as it is. And this is this approach has his strong and weak sides, but in general, I really love that we are managing to keep it as open as possible. We started as a crowdfunding project and basically crowdfunded one rather cheap and low quality laser scanner solution that we then turned into hybrid laser scanning and photogrammetry workflow that allowed to acquire several interesting sites that are not accessible now, such as Kamiana Mohyla, rock art place in Zaporizhia Oblast in Ukraine, several wooden churches, several graves from the archaeological excavations that are obviously destroyed during the research and also were located at the occupied territories that are now occupied. And with this workflow, we existed right until we started collaborating with CyArk and Kacey as a result of one of the forums arranged by Ministry of Culture. And the main part of what I will be talking about is this project, Preserving Ukrainian Legacy, and its phase 2 and phase 3 that are about to start. Well, phase 2 just started this week, and phase 3 will be implemented in this summer next year. What I'm about to talk further is the features of its research design, project design, that on the one hand seems very obvious and straightforward for us and for CyArk, because as Kacey mentioned, that's just the way we work. But as long as we interact with European colleagues from Europe, it seems important to highlight some features of it that are not always implemented, and we believe are vital when working with cultural heritage institutions, specifically in Ukraine. So these 3 phases of the project are 9 organizations who collaborate with us. This phase 1 was National Museum of History of Ukraine, Khortytsa National Reserve in Zaporizhia, and Dnipro National Historical Museum in Dnipro. Phase 2 is Taras Shevchenko National University, Institute of Archaeology, and Odessa Archaeological Museum. And phase 3 will be is still the call is still open, and we still figure out who will take 2 spare places. 4 things that I would want to highlight regarding preserving Ukrainian legacy and how it is arranged is the communal building, the complex approach to problem solving, problem solving in the project and in general, data management protocols, and the overall approach to what is cultural heritage and how to interact with it. That is our view, but it seems that this view worked pretty well with the project design and secured decent transferring of CyArk expertise and experience into our Ukrainian realities. So first is the communal construction. For us, it was super important that museums participants or institutions participants were in charge of figuring out what is the most important for their digitization activities. They set up the priorities, they set up the needs for these specific priorities, what objects they want to focus, what they are interested in, this and that. Second, the digitization in Ukraine is not performed by CyArk or Archaika, and is mostly performed by museum participants that do what they learned during the training to actively solve the digitization issues and to have the proper models of what they set up as priorities. So they basically do what they wanted to do from the very beginning. And while that's on the way, CyArk and Archaika help a lot to monitor, check on institutions, help them, provide them with the solutions to the issues they have, and are basically constantly supporting both during and after the project. All in all, that all leads to the idea that we try to persuade Ukrainian institutions that they are adults in the house. And this is probably the most important part of what we are doing, to put all responsibility of what's going on with heritagization activities in Ukraine on institutions once they have the opportunity to implement the resources that are provided during the project. Second is that we try to address all issues that prevent cultural heritage of Ukraine from digitization in a complex manner. So long story short, we have 3 main problems: is the lack of equipment, lack of experts, and lack of resources. And we see the situations when one issue is addressed quite often, and that usually doesn't lead to the proper digitization initiatives. Like, I know museums where regional authorities or government have donated a scanner to them, and they are just not able to use it because no one actually asked them what they want to do and how they want to do it. So what we do is supply institutions with equipment, but also help them to get in touch with this specific equipment. So once participants come for the training procedures, they get familiar with what will be donated to them and trained to use this specific objects. It makes it easier for them, and it makes their integration into the process faster. And third, once they go back they are supported by specific members of our Archaica team and by CyArk, with a constant taking care of them implementing what they do in practice. Also, this practice model helped them to align all together, nuance their expertise, get familiar with equipment and apply it on specific objects, and figure out everything they need to figure out in terms of communication. Yeah, one other thing is that once museums set up their priorities, we figure out what specifics of the kit, mainly we are talking about photogrammetry kit, because it's more transferable and flexible. Yeah, so what specific features of the kit this institution needs according to the priorities they set up. So that means we constantly communicate with the institution and with CyArk, and every kit is a bit unique, just because we try to address their needs as in a most complex manner. Once they go for a training and start training, they first meet the offline model and then or the online model and then live training in Krakow, and we try to arrange it as a communal space as well, where teams are formed. Every participant from the museum institutions collaborate with specific participants with Archaica, who will be in touch with them further. We get to know each other, all of us, pretty well, sharing the communal spaces and trying to work as complex as possible. And once these participants come back, they have a chance to train while we are checking up on them and taking care, so everything would be good. Sometimes spontaneous troubles and spontaneous solutions emerge during that process, and this is exactly how it should be. What happens in the end that from all three institutions that has already been at this training, all institutions and all participants from the institutions proceed to implement the digital methods further. They do that more and more, and not only digitizing their own collections in the museums, but also implement that during archaeological research, do some fieldwork digitization, and often apply for Archaica for some guidance, consultation, basically staying in touch and trying to expand their practice and their experience further. During the project, we created more than 170 models, which is quantitatively a clear outcome, but in terms of quality of the models is also quite successful, because there are some artifacts that we are only able to obtain because the digitization is performed by museum experts, but we also provide the solutions that will help them on the way. For example, with National History Museum of Ukraine, we managed to digitize the Upper Paleolithic art of 14,000 years old sites, which is a unique collection that no one saw in more than 100 years. And now we finally have their 3D models. And I consider that a vital part of Ukrainian cultural heritage to be digitized. And yeah, once they know it and they can implement it in practice, they also can teach their colleagues to do that. And we also see this happening, at least in one of the three institutions, I can say for sure, but overall, they all are capable of doing it. Third feature is the metadata and paradata standards, basically data management standards. Here we follow CyArk protocol, which is quite good, but the feature is the magic is that we have clear protocol, we have it translated in Ukrainian, and we have many checkups during that protocol. Moreover, since most of institutions we work with are in fact research institutions, we not only care about metadata, but also about the relatively high level of gathering paradata, accuracy, resolution, camera calibration parameters when needed. So we check upon this many issues that usually archaeologists don't do because it's too technical for them. And thanks to CyArk manual resources. We will have the translated volume of how to use the resources institutions have, and translated data management, data acquisition protocol we published as the electronic volume, but also as the printed volume. So institutions are able to go to the printed volume and check if they do everything correctly, meaning that we try to overcome language barrier, but we also try to overcome the expertise level barrier. And again, if they have some issues, they always can contact us. And finally, like the most important point for me is that we can digitize as many pots as we want, but digitizing pots is not the preservation of cultural heritage. Preservation of cultural heritage, in my view, is providing institutions with capacities to perform cultural heritage preservation, which is a bit circular, but that basically means that we don't really care about how many pots will be digitized. It's about having people in the house in Ukraine who are able to care about the heritage, because that's generally more important. And that means that we focus on what people know, what people do, and what they want to do, so that we would be able to compete on an international level, but also so we would be focused on what we need, and we would be able to define what we need, and both in humanistic and in technological terms. And that's basically how it works. I must say that to me, this research project design is obviously very good, but kind of obvious, and it's surprising how superior is what CyArk suggests as the trainer and as the community compared to other cultural heritage preservation projects I sometimes see, not only in Ukraine, but otherwise. So that's why I consider this design superior over many other things that have happened with Ukrainian cultural heritage. And it's a great pleasure to be involved in that. And yeah, this is the last slide. So thank you very much. And I guess I'm ready for your questions, Yurko, yeah?
Thank you very much for your very exciting presentation. And I don't know how to put it, but this pot, when take this pot as an example, my own experience says that this pot is not exactly the most difficult thing to scan. It's rather simple for digitalization, but when a museum worker can see that there is a result to his work, well, let him or her start with pots, and then let him or her continue with something more difficult. But if they see the result, even if you take some elementary objects, for them it is important to see these immediate results. This stimulates them very much. So I would like to ask everyone to use our chat for questions. So maybe I should start with my own question. I don't know whether it is good or bad, but Ukrainian territories have never been well digitalized. Like Poland is using LIDAR much more actively, and they use it using planes, and then they spot barrows, they map those architectural objects, etc. And so the question is, what can we say that this unavailability of our area in Ukraine and our the fact that our territory is unexplored, is it good during the times of war? Because Russia doesn't know what we have. And another part to this question, can you mention what has been looted already by Russia in terms of archaeological monuments?
Yeah, that's I when I saw your questions for yesterday that you prepared, I thought that they are very peculiar. They are very interesting to answer from archaeological point of view. Unfortunately, I don't think that the fact that we don't know much about Ukrainian archaeological sites in the region is helpful, because Russians will destroy what they can destroy anyway. And the fact that we don't know about this just complicates the recording. The only moment when it is beneficial is that when we had archaeological site, excavated it, and then stored archaeological objects in the museums that are now occupied, which is not that often in Ukrainian archaeology. Quite often the objects go to the institution that excavated them, so they end up in Kyiv, Zaporizhia, like regional centers. And we have some, basically that means that the most losses of archaeological objects are because of looting. And that's something that could be prevented and should have been prevented if the evacuation of museums have been done correctly prior to the war. Let's not deep into that topic, yeah, because it's quite painful. But what is not excavated either will be destroyed or not be destroyed, whether we know it or not. Regarding what we lost already, well, obviously everything that was in Kherson museums, of course, and the archaeology on the occupied lands is kinda is suffered a lot. My site is rock art site of Kam'yana Mohyla near Melitopol, which is the only rock art site in Ukraine. Is now looted, and everything portable from there is relocated to Crimea. And it's quite a big deal because we actually have quite a unique site there. Obviously, most of Greek cities in Crimea are now turned into Disneylands, and this can be considered as archaeological loss. And the third example that comes to my mind is the golden sword that has been found in 2020 in Zaporizhia region by Gennady Toshev, and has been stored in the museum in Kamenka-Znamenka. So they basically stored it there because they wanted to attract the attention of locals to the importance of cultural heritage. And now it's not that relevant. And I don't think this gold is there, which has been there for 2000 years. Yeah, so I think now it's somewhere closer to Buryatia, probably. And this is like the most iconic example, so.
This is very deplorable, I agree. And here I would like to return to your comment about the fact that Russia will destroy objects they can reach without, regardless whether we know about them or not. So my comment here would be that when we asked when we digitalize objects and then share them online, whether we trigger Russian missiles to target them. But I can say that they know where Sofia Kievska, Kiev Sofia is. They know where our objects of heritage are.
That does not work. I mean, the idea of hiding things by not letting people know about them don't work. And that's just it. You're right.
Right. So maybe this is rather for those who are staying outside Ukraine, live in other countries. So maybe it will be another cold shower for those who live abroad. Just one reminder, yesterday Dnipro suffered from a missile attack by a missile which couldn't be shot down. And so we cannot stop everything. So this is the way we live. This is the cold shower we get practically every day, every week. And this is our reality. And so we are going to share it with you a bit. So my next question here would be, it's not a secret that before 2014, before 2022, we had huge problems with national funding in the area of heritage, conservation, to say nothing about archaeology. My experience is that archaeology was done only when the archaeologically relevant sites became the sites for, I don't know, laying roads or other transportation infrastructure. So then we did some archaeology there. So archaeology has always been very poor and very badly financed. So my question is, what are the ways to find funding for contemporary archaeologists? How can we make this profession financially stable, financially safe?
That was painful. Thank you for the question. I will be slightly pessimistic in here, but I don't think we have any other option to be sustainable as archaeologists. I mean, personally, as a scholar who performs archaeology in Ukraine, it is complicated to do it without international grants and international ways of financial support for ourselves, because there's only one large Ukrainian project that supports cultural heritage initiatives, which is Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, and it is not sustainable as the way of earning money and, let's say, sustaining your family. We don't really have governmental financial support, especially for fieldwork and academic research. It never was there. It was over by, like, probably somewhere at the point where I was born, somewhere there. Which means that there are two ways, actually two ways of getting money into archaeology: international grants or construction projects. We don't really have a massive fashion for archaeological investigations on construction sites, or archaeological expertise on construction sites. So either we put our law to work and push all constructions that touch archaeological sites to provide archaeological expertise for a decent financial support, or we need to rely on international grants, and that's just it. Or we can also work at 3 workplaces at once and make ourselves proud that we are exhausting ourselves to death. That's also quite a popular solution.
I thought that I gave a cold shower to people abroad, but now you gave me a cold shower. Really, that is really very difficult to do archaeology now. Maybe let us dream together. Let us try to understand how your NGO could work like in 10 years' time. Now you're laying the foundations. And I understand that archaeology is your key focus. So my question will be about that. What will be the situation with archaeology in Ukraine in 10 years? What can we do to promote it?
Well, first, that thing that comes into my mind is that, as you pointed out at the beginning of the meeting, is that we actually doing quite well in digitization things, into keeping up with digitization trends worldwide. I would say if 5 years ago we were 20 years behind archaeology worldwide in terms of digitization, now we are 5 years behind. So we are doing quite well. And that means that there'll be a lot of digital expertise in Ukraine quite soon. So for archaic, I personally dream for getting more research-oriented and providing expertise that is only possible for research institutions and is valid for research institutions. For 3D, that would mean a super precise photogrammetry and maybe laser scanning and means of analyzing it. Maybe multispectral imaging and hyperspectral imaging. But for other digital things, that would mean PXRF studies and other chemistry-based analysis, and go into that digital non-visual direction as well. Because Ukrainian archaeology will fill with archival data or archival digitization quite soon, but we still have very strong research needs, especially if we want to keep up methodologically with Europe and compete on the international projects.
Okay, thank you. Our moderator is collecting questions, and there is a question here, Simon, for you personally and for Kacey. If you can, please also join us. So here it is. How exactly universities can cooperate with CyArk and
yeah, I
with
can take that
archive.
one also because I guess, yeah, I know the university that is asking that question. That's the one I'm graduated from. We have in this phase 2, that is for scamming phase of our project, we already collaborate with Kyiv National University, and the mod is that we enter their department that wants to work with us. In this case, it's archaeological department, and provide the training for teaching personnel and high-level students who will be able to transfer this knowledge then to younger students and to make this a recurrent thing. Right now, this collaboration is quite solid because they often invite us to talk, to do some practical things, and to design several projects together. We are quite often open to do something on a volunteer basis or to make a proper consultation or do this and that. So in fact, it is super easy to collaborate with us just by getting in touch with us. So yeah, please follow the links that moderator is kindly sharing in chat, and I'm sure, Danilo, we can figure something out.
Kacey, do you have anything to add here?
No, yeah, I think reaching out on either of our websites, I think that's a great mechanism. Yeah, we're still looking for partners for phase 3 too, and I think yeah, that's something to look out for. So yeah, no, excited to meet the new participants in phase 2 in just a few weeks.
My own experience shows that really this is very simple. Please use email to contact our today's lecturers. And my own experience, I would like to share it, that when my friends were communicating with me, well, it would be good to digitalize our wooden architecture in Ukraine because we have over 3,000 wooden objects, and every year 1 or 2 of them could burn down. And at the same time, when these friends of mine asked me about the possibility to digitalize wooden architecture, at the same time, other friends of mine said that, yeah, there is a project called for projects and funding is provided. So, you know, somehow the stars are with us. And so it is very important when this knowledge that we share is transmitted further on, and it is a chain reaction, and digitalization, you know, is possible on the mass scale. Digitalization is no longer like filling in the forms on the computer, the way it started. Now we are making 3D models. We are analyzing multispectral objects, and digitalization is a very broad instrument, and I invite everyone, maybe start with ports, really, but this will show you the potential, and this will show you that you can do it, and you can continue with more complicated objects, and this will provide good results. You can't even imagine how good. So, as you see, our time is running out. So I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our speakers, to our organizers, and please, if you have any more questions, feel free to contact us. To conclude, this is not our last webinar this year. And we started, during our first webinar, we started about the reality capture program, which is used to digitalize things, how this digital data could be used. Our colleague Thomas Flynn shared his experience in that. Today we're talking about training and your own project. So our next webinar will be about using this data in restoration. We will have a very exciting case of Notre Dame de Paris, which was yet another cold shower for Europe and for the whole world, showing that it is essential to digitalize such monuments, because, as you know, this cathedral burned down in 2019. So anyway, it is going to be very exciting. Thank you very much, everyone, for finding time, for joining us here in Ukraine on Friday. And now, well, it's a Friday evening, so enjoy yourselves. And Kacey says, well, in America, in California, it is morning. But welcome to Ukraine, Friday night here. And thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.